philosopher once said, "The only risk for me is in not taking one." Now, that's tough for us engineers because we spend our whole lives trying to eliminate risk. That and overthinking life choices. But don't worry, I'm not the kind of engineer that walks into parties and starts talking about load-bearing walls. I'll calculate the weight limit of the deck we're on and then scream. Then find my math error and then apologize. I'm not a good engineer, okay? And if you're looking for someone to blame, I got to point to the University of Toledo, who put me, a business major, in an engineering dorm. Just one day I followed my friends to class and walked in the wrong room. Absolute confusion. In hindsight, that was impressively accurate foreshadowing from the next 5 years of my life. Every external signal in that moment told me to leave. Wrong room, wrong major, wrong life choice. But something internal told me to stay. I didn't have a plan, I didn't have clarity, but staying in that room gave me something I never even knew I needed: a detour. And that detour changed the trajectory of my life, but only after I trusted my instincts and I moved. Okay, I technically stayed in that example, I get it, but you know what I'm trying to say. We're all obsessed with having the right answer before we move, right? The data, the analysis, the 6-page formula confirming the outcome before we even take a step. But finding the right path is harder than we think, because there's this tension that exists between the external world telling us to go left and then our instincts telling us to go right. And navigating that tension, that's exactly how your life gets written. Okay, quick moment of honesty, no judgment for me at all, trust me. Unlike my bank account after a Vegas weekend or, Netflix having the audacity to ask, "Are you still watching?" Like it's paying my bills. But how many of us have silenced the voice on our GPS? Raise your hand. Great. Now listen, if you haven't raised your hand, I'm genuinely praying that you're a pathological liar. Because A, we all do it, and B, that means you're not really listening, and that kind of hurts my feelings. Makes me sad. Like, eat a whole bag of Oreos sad. We've all been there, right? So, we have an internal version of that voice, right? Our gut, our instincts, that feeling in your chest you get before your brain catches up. I call it our internal GPS, or IGPS. And just like that British navigation woman, we turn that voice all the way down. We're so concerned with the external noise, our parents, social media, Kanye, that all we do is turn that voice way down. Our IGPS goes silent. We are all wired with something psychologists call loss aversion, which means that you feel potential loss more intensely than potential gain. So when your IGPS says go right, loss aversion kicks in and says, what if you're wrong? What if we fail? What if we turn into Kanye? So instead of trusting your IGPS, your brain wraps the fear in spiritual clothing and calls it something noble. We're just waiting for clarity. But your brain's not waiting for clarity. It's waiting for safety. And the problem is safety lives on the other side of movement. In other words, you can't see a door you haven't walked towards. And your IGPS can't calculate a better route for you if you're standing still. 20 years ago, every external signal in my life told me to stay. I was living in Ohio, had a stable job. My parents desperately wanted me to keep that stable job. And my GPS rerouted. Said, you want a stable job? We should act like professionally. So, to California I went. And within 2 weeks, that dream had the structural integrity of a Jenga tower. On a boat. In a hurricane. No job. No apartment. Everything I owned was in my car. My address? Yeah. 1234 Target Parking Lot Way. Obviously not a real address, but very much a real problem. My parents were amazing people. They loved me so much and taught me so many great things. And they called every night. Son, we love you and we support you, but we love when you have a place to live. Is there any way you want to come home? That pull back home was real tempting. And so, as I sat there in my car apartment, I prayed the only prayer I could think of at the time. God, I don't need a miracle. I just need direction. And I got a one-word response: forward. And that's when it hit me. Next time, say directions. So, I did the most unglamorous act of faith in modern history. I opened Craigslist. Yeah, not Indeed, not LinkedIn, that'd have been nice. Craigslist, where you can buy cars, clothes, and partially eaten cereal. But whatever, I wasn't looking for breakfast. I was looking for rent money. And so I saw a link for SoCal Gas. It's like a real company with insurance that doesn't start with go and end with fund me. So I clicked the link, and it leads to a staffing agency and a woman named Jan who built my resume and kindly corrected me when I called it my resume. And that resume, once written in metaphorical crayon, became an interview that led to a job that began the first 16 years of a career. I trusted my iGPS, and I took the detour. And with one Craigslist click in a Target parking lot, my life was forever changed. We are all taught that wrong turns are failures, that detours are setbacks, and if you're not on the main road, you're lost. But what if the detour is the main road? What if the greatest blessings in your life are all waiting for you on the main road, your biggest growth, your most meaningful moments and connections, and your most meaningful work? Look, the art of the detour is not ignore all information and do whatever feels good. That's called your 20s. The art of the detour is about listening for your iGPS and trusting it over the external noise. It's discernment. Here's an engineering principle to think plays here. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transferred. I'm like 85% sure that's right, okay? But don't quote me on that. Again, not a great engineer. And if I'm right, though, that means the energy you need for your detour, it's already inside of you. You just have to move to access it. Motion generates options, which gives you momentum, and that momentum is what carries you through your detours. There's a fallacy of the brain's loss aversion. Your brain can't evaluate an experience based on the future. It's running simulations based on the past. So when it says, that's Kanye crazy, it's giving you an assumption at best. It is definitely not a fact. There's a faith element to all of this. I believe God can do anything, but God tends to only move after you do. Why? It's not that he needs your effort, right? It's because movement is consent. Movement is you saying, I'm available. Think of it as the green banner on LinkedIn, open to work. I'm here, God, ready to go. Inevitably, you're going to question if your iGPS is in tune, if you're listening to it or being stubborn. And in those moments where movement does not produce the results you want, your iGPS will tell you to persist or pivot. And learning to hear the distinction between those two signals is only done through repetition. By the way, I engineered this for us, so you're going to be really cool. The framework for our iGPS is built right into the name, so you can't forget it. I stands for identify. Turn the volume up and listen and identify that voice. G stands for go. Open the laptop, send the email, walk in the wrong room. The energy you need for your detour is already there. What's the next letter? I was kidding. Thank you. P stands for persist or pivot. Calibrate your IGPS to hear the difference between those two signals. And S stands for stack receipts, because your brain has a long memory for failure and a very short memory for success. So stack receipts until your confidence is louder than your doubt. There's a fine line between genius and insanity. The same is true for detours and main roads. You want proof? Remember the philosopher that I quoted at the beginning about risk? That was the great scholar, Kanye West. Who's Kanye crazy now? We all have a turn we haven't taken yet. A direction we've been second guessing. And a detour that we think is too risky. And your IGPS is waiting, ready to guide you. Are you ready to listen? Looking back on those early California days, I realized I missed an insanely obvious sign. What was the name of the parking lot that I was staying in? Target. I hit the bullseye, and I didn't even know it. I thought it was a detour, but I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I wasn't miles from my path like I thought I was. The same is true for you. That destination that you're thinking about, that you dream about, it's not light years away. I'm like 85% sure that's a real measurement, by the way. Don't quote me, please. That life that you've wanted to live, that life that's inside of you, it's just a few detours away. It's closer than you think. It's within reach. And so is the book.